Today, the Below Average Joe's MMA show presents the weekend preview. And we have a lot to go over. It has been over a week since we have done a preview or a recap. And it all starts with Mackenzie Dern versus Xiaonan.
Yes.
We got Bellator 286, the two biggest fighters in the whole damn promotion on the same card. And you might not even known it was coming. But we're also recapping everything that we missed out on last week, including Bellator 285 and multiple weeks of the Contender Series.
Yes.
All this and more, and it all starts right now. Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, episode 239. You can see it right over Dominic's right shoulder. We're back in the saddle. It's been a while. Of course, we had verbal sparring last week. Go check it out if you haven't. But it's been a while since we've done our flow here of our recap previews. Apologies to the audience. We were kind of planning to do the off week with no UFC by putting in, of course, we did verbal sparring, but we were planning to have a little bit more content, another cage side rewind for you. Unfortunately, I had an allergic reaction or something to some medication, so I had a face rash that just wouldn't quit.
Yeah.
I was super nauseous and stuff. It was not fun, guys. I'm all good now. But it was just like the last thing I wanted to do was talk for like a minute, let alone
3 hours.
Yeah, especially for that kind of episode, that's a bit more of a time commitment. So apologies for that, but we're back here, ready to go, revving up for a pretty big episode here. Got multiple cards to preview. We got multiple cards to recap. But Dominic, since it's been a minute, tell me, how you feeling? How's the family doing? How's the girlfriend doing? How's everybody doing in your world?
Everyone is doing very well, Noah. I appreciate you asking. I'll be sure to return that favor. Everything's good, man. Life is good. Our creative brains are flowing once again, Noah. No hinting, no teasing, just saying we're really wanting to take these Joeys to the next level. But everything is great. Life's great. And I'm just so excited to be back here, back in a routine. We have another off week in the UFC or in MMA in general next week. But then after that, we get a nice long stretch of hitting it back to back to back to back. So I'm excited. Of course, all the content's still coming your way. Another verbal sparring next week. We're going to try and get a cage side in at the end of the month for October to make up for September. I'm pumped. I'm ready to chat. We got a lot to discuss, so I'm going to stop talking. But how are you? How's the family? How's the friends? How's the tea? If you know what I mean, Noah. And let's get into this thing.
Yeah, you couldn't mention a girlfriend. I'm surprised you didn't ask how my right hand was doing because not only did I name it after Dom, but now with the tea back to normal, it's a mess around here. It's working overtime, so they say.
What?
I'm joking. You guys don't have to get those images in your head. All I do is watch sports and gamble. You know what really gets my rocks off, Dom? When a fucking bet hits. That's what gets my rocks off. This right hand don't do anything for me anymore. I'm tired of that shit. Put a phone in my right hand with a winning bet on it. Then maybe I'll get something going.
Yes.
But I digress. That was an interesting start here. But everything's good, Dominic. Of course, my health is back to normal. I'm really excited to just kind of get into what we got on the docket today because there is a lot to go over, a lot that we missed during the off week, but we're going to give it all to you guys. You know who else can give it all to you? Everything you've ever wanted? PointsBet Sportsbook. They are the official betting partner of the Below Average Joe's MMA show, and they have an exclusive offer for you.
Yes, you. There. Raising your hand.
Yeah. You're like, huh? Me? Yes, you. So right now, if you sign up with PointsBet Sportsbook as a new user on your initial deposit, they are going to match 100% of that deposit up to $2,000. I mean,
Why say
you're just
no?
stealing. PointsBet is basically saying, "Come steal our money,"
Yeah.
and y'all ain't doing it. Well, no, I'm just kidding. Some people are doing it, but
Yeah.
more people and people need to know that someone's out there is just handing out free money. So
Yes.
there's two ways to make good on this offer. One, in the description of today's episode, you can go to that link, sign up. The code's already in there and everything. Bada bada bing, bada bada boom. You put in that deposit, you got the money. Also, you can download the PointsBet Sportsbook app, take a look around, see how things feel. Do you like the lines? Do you like the point betting? Anything like that. Really make yourself comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you like what you see, you can go and sign up there. But make sure you use code MMA Joes.
One more time.
Oh, didn't say it loud enough. I'm not going to say it louder. I promise to headphone users. MMA Joes.
Yes.
And you get the offer there as well. So you put in that deposit, bap, beep, boop, bop, beep. It's there. All right.
What he said.
Yeah. So thank you to PointsBet Sportsbook. Please bet responsibly. And with that, we move into UFC Vegas 61. Dominic Salee. What an interesting card here, because the card is not very stacked on paper. It's just not. We kind of have to talk about this at some, but this whole event is being closed off from the media, from the fans. And some of you may be asking, why? Is it for fighter safety? Is there something going on? Well, there's a man who said, I want to go, but I ain't dealing with you fucking poor ass common folk. Mark Zuckerberg, the Mark Zuckerberg, is looking like will be in attendance. I don't know if it's going to be a private party or just himself just sitting there. Really don't know what's going there. And then there's some rumors that maybe this is the UFC teased some Dana interviews about doing fights in the metaverse and all this stuff. So, Dominic, when you kind of hear all that, do you think it's, at the end of the day, are we really just going to be watching a card that Mark Zuckerberg just is in attendance and didn't want all this noise around him, or is there more to it? Is there maybe some business going on here?
I think there are some moves being made in the business side. It was talked about quite some time ago how Dana was wanting to dabble into that metaverse, and I don't really know much of anything about that stuff. When I hear metaverse, I think of the Spider-Man cartoon movie, the Spider-Verse. I mean, I don't really know what goes on inside of there, but I think they're going to try and experiment with some things with like cameras and VR and whatnot, and I just don't think they want to have anybody there that could potentially, get in the way, or things get said that they don't want in it. I think they're going to be doing some like test runs basically this weekend. And of course, I would imagine Mark Zuckerberg is going to be there. That's what we're hearing. That's what everybody's saying. Even Mackenzie Dern said that today during media day. So we shall see. But as long as the fights don't get affected, which they shouldn't, I'm not saying they will, then that's all that matters, because we're going to be watching at home anyway, Noah. And what do you think of this main event?
So we talked about this when it got announced, when Mackenzie Dern versus Xiaonan got announced. We were a little lukewarm on it. As a fight itself, solid. It could have not the best matchmaking, but okay. These are two top 6 strawweights, like very good fighters. Haven't fought before. All right, I'm in. But then you put it in a main event, and it kind of loses a little bit of that luster. It loses a little bit of that because it's really not a main event level fight right now. Could it be in the future? Sure. But right now, neither girl really feel like they're in a place where we need to see them in a main event. But at the same time, Dominic, I will admit that I feel like the closer this fight we've gotten to this fight, I see a lot at stake here for Mackenzie Dern. Mm-hmm. And you could tell me if you feel differently, because Xiaonan's the one on a fight losing streak, I believe. So
yeah,
Mackenzie's coming off a win. looked pretty solid. But we saw how her first main event performance went last year. She looked quite rough, I would say, would be the
Yeah.
word, against Marina Rodriguez. Was not her best showing by a long shot. And here she is back in a main event spot, 5 rounds against a tough fighter in Xiaonan, who really put a fight against Marina Rodriguez than Mackenzie Dern did. So she has some questions to answer because we've seen the improvements at times. Her seems more confident in the striking. Her jiu-jitsu is, of course, lethal. She seems to be able to take a pretty good punch. But at the end of the day, if she can't put it together for 5 rounds, if she can't show up under the brightest lights in the biggest moments, then she may be this very good at the bubble of being great, of being a contender, but just not. What do you think?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I feel like there are questions to be answered on both sides of this fight here. Mackenzie obviously is just the bigger name, the bigger brand, the bigger star, quote unquote, value of the two. And they obviously, if you're the UFC, does want someone like her to continue because she came in with that, world championships in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. She has all these crazy submissions. She had the first knee bar, I think, in UFC history for the women. So she's done amazing things, but when she has lost, they have been pretty decisive and just really not even being a decisive loss, but she hasn't shown much when she loses. I mean, that fight against Marina, for example, we knew that Marina is lethal on the feet. She's one of the best Muay Thai practitioners in all of, the women's divisions inside the UFC. Mackenzie had been looking like she was working on her striking in terms of like training videos and whatnot. But when you get in there with someone like that, it showed that there's still so many levels that she was away from competing with Marina on the feet, and she still wasn't really setting up good takedowns. So if you can't get someone down, you can't use your jiu-jitsu on the feet. You know what I mean? Well, unless you're Jessica Andrade and you pull off a standing arm triangle, but that withstanding, you don't see it often. So what are we going to see here? Because Xiaonan is very well-rounded. She's very good at striking. She's going to want to keep this fight on the feet. But we've seen that when she's on the ground, shout out to Carla Esparza, that's still the best performance of her career, in my opinion. She dominated Xiaonan down there. Now, that's not what Mackenzie does on the ground, but if she can just get it there, you have to figure she's going to get the submission finish. It's just kind of a matter of, when, not if. But if it stays on the feet, it's a whole different ball game, Noah, and that's got to be where the most intrigue's coming in for this fight, right?
Yeah, you definitely are nailing it right there with that analysis. I mean, you could look at Yan Xiaonan, her loss to Carla Esparza, who Carla is very good. She's about to fight for a title. Um, but that was like a thorough beating, which I don't know if we had ever seen Carla Esparza do. We had really been seeing Carla kind of squeak by a lot of decisions, using her great wrestling to do it. But the ground and pound in that fight, it was like, whoa. I mean, very impressive for Esparza, but then it raised a lot of questions about Xiaonan, who I don't think was undefeated coming into that fight, but she was undefeated in the UFC.
Yeah.
And was looked at as like one of those, Asian stars that they were looking to kind of take the reins and build on. And she got thoroughly beaten. And then she looked better against Marina Rodriguez. That was a straight stand-up fight. She really made a good account of herself against a very deadly Muay Thai striker, and Rodriguez still came up short. I think it was a split decision, very close, but still a loss. So that's back-to-back now. And she's still getting a big opportunity against Mackenzie Dern. This is someone ranked in front of her still, who does have a lot of popularity. Mackenzie very popular with the fans. But, Dom, I think for Xiaonan, I do think that she will get the better of the exchanges on the feet. I don't think anybody's questioning that. And that's why the pressure falls on Mackenzie Dern to equalize this fight, because we realized after the first main event, we're like, holy shit, she has lethal jiu-jitsu, but she doesn't really know how to take people down. At least that was my takeaway.
Right.
Marina obviously came into that fight not wanting to be taken there. That's been her Achilles heel in her career. But it wasn't even like she was doing a whole lot of like great sprawling or just being like a super good anti wrestler. Mackenzie was just being very lazy in how she set up her takedowns. And I don't mean lazy in like, I just think that she didn't really know how to do it right. Like it just
Right.
didn't,
Exactly.
it just, to the eyes, again, we're not guys that have trained, but it just looked very sloppy.
Yeah.
That's the only way. So you walk out of that with a lot of questions about how high can Mackenzie Dern really fly, because if she can't utilize her jujitsu, she's average at best.
Yeah.
And here with Xiaonan, I don't know what to expect because it's been a while since we've seen. Well, we saw Mackenzie not too long, and Yan Xiaonan fought last in like March or February, and Mackenzie fought over the summer, so it's not been too long. But this is the time to see those improvements in Mackenzie's game, and if she can get this fight down and make quick work of Xiaonan, very impressive. But easier said than done, and until I see it, I'm not gonna quite believe it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and off of that question, to wrap this discussion up, what do you make of the odds then? Mackenzie minus 230,
Yeah.
Jan coming back almost plus 2-1 dog. I mean, that's
don't love
tough
the
when
odds.
when on paper you do have such a one-dimensional fighter in Mackenzie to still be that big of a favorite, you know?
Yeah, that's the tale here for these two. Mackenzie is got the best skill between the two of them in her jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But she is very much, that is her bread and butter. That is what she is good at.
Yeah.
Everything else in her game is just not really,
Up to
it's
par.
improving, but it's not showing to be at a level where she can compete with the best. Zhao Nan, on the other hand, is one of those kind of good at everything, but not really great at anything type fighters. I do think her stand up might be a little bit better than I'm giving it credit for right there, especially in her last fight. I think she kind of proved that. But overall, like, what does Zhao Zhanan really do that sets her apart?
Right.
It's
Right.
it's a bit of what I run into with fighters like Marvin Vittori or whoever, where they are very good everywhere. They will beat a lot of good fighters due to them being just very skilled at every
Well-rounded.
facet of the game, well rounded. But I'm having a hard time with these odds. I don't really like the minus 230 on Dern here. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't love it because, again, if she gets the fight down, it's probably going to be game, set, match. But I don't know if she can. It was really an eye-opening fight against Rodriguez, and we just haven't seen if she's really done better since then. Like, we haven't seen it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree.
I'm guessing you don't really care for the odds either here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I have been big on Mackenzie. I do believe in her, but you just need to see that evolution, that next step. So if I'm not seeing it, there's no way. Like, I would put a minus 230 Mackenzie Dern on a parlay. No way. I wouldn't do it. If there's anything I would do, and I've done this before with Mackenzie, it's like a double method of victory, submission or decision. But even then, like, guys, Yan Xiaonan at plus 185 straight up just to win, that is very, very live in my opinion.
And if you want to get even a little frisky with it, Xiaonan by decision feels like a really solid bet that you could probably get for at least plus 600, plus 500, something like that. So
yeah, Mackenzie never been finished, her 2 losses.
So I think that would be a very realistic one too. But even just a straight up money line it's enticing. I haven't got my bets in for the weekend yet, but it'll be something I keep my eye on. And we have more on this card to come, Dom, but we're actually going to move over into Bellator.
Yes.
The roundup.
Yes.
Because we're talking 285 and 286 here. So we'll start with our recap portion. Bellator 285 happened last Saturday. Benson Henderson in your main event.
Yes.
Gets the win over Peter Queally in Ireland, in Dublin, the man's home country. Beats him thoroughly, 50-45s across the board, or I think a point was deducted, so 49-45s across the board to a unanimous decision. And in your co-main event, Yoel Romero smashes Melvin Manhoff in his final fight of his MMA career. Gets the third round KO via elbows on the ground. Kind of reminded me of Romero's knockout of Lyoto Machida back in the day, which is less savage version of that because the
Yeah.
Machida one's kind of scary. But these were your two big fights on this card. Of course, the crowd, that's got to be kind of the thing we get out of the way here. I mean, Bellator should really consider just doing all their shows in Dublin.
Yeah,
Just do all of them.
It's an electric factory there.
Literally, it's the top. It's probably the best crowd in MMA across the board. Them, England, those are like. I mean,
They do it different over there.
Yeah, and they made Peter Queally look like a freaking star. I love the zombie walkout. Part of me is impartial to the Korean zombie, and when he walks out to it, because that's what I saw at first, but hearing the crowd sing along to that song, I already love the song, and then it comes on and the whole crowd's behind it. Chills.
Yeah.
So this crowd really added to the event, which otherwise, I mean, it was fine. It was a fine event. What did you think of these two top fights? Was there anything that kind of stood out? Was there anything that was like, oof, I don't know about that?
I mean, I think Benson Henderson getting that win in a main event spot over Peter Queally in Ireland is a big deal because it had looked like Benson was, for the most part, on his way out. That's just kind of...
He had a 3-fight losing streak coming.
Yeah, and he's getting older. He hasn't had a ton of success in Bellator in recent years. Peter Queally's still in his prime, a very good fighter. They've been putting him in main events. The poor guy's lost 2 back-to-back main events, I think, in Ireland, which is tough, man, to do that. But he's putting asses in the seats, clearly, and they want to be there and see him fight, which is awesome. But for Benson to do that said a lot, especially as decisive as it was. And then for Yoel, I mean, the combined age in this fight was 91 years old, so that does play a factor. But was it going to play out any other way? It just felt like there was still so much more that Yoel has to give as compared to Melvin. But it sucks to see someone go out that badly in their, final fight of their career. But they gave him a nice send-off. He had his time in the cage.
I really enjoyed the send-off, though, because Melvin Manhoff is a legend for sure. Yeah. But he's someone that never fought in UFC. So therefore, many of your fans today, including for a long time me and you, Dom, unfamiliar with the man's work. But he is, I mean, his very first professional fight was in 1995. Me and you, not even born yet when that happened. So, I mean, a great career. He's had some great fights through many of the promotions that have came and went. And it was a proper send-off, but I questioned the matchmaking. I believe you did too when this fight was made. Yeah, I get it. The age similar, but hello, Yoel Romero is he's not human. He's still a beast, and Melvin has been a bit feeling the age for years now. I mean, people have been kind of saying he's not been the same fighter for, I feel like, a decade at this point.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed seeing the send-off. Like, he was very emotional, obviously, and the crowd did a really good job of making it feel like if this would have been a crowd in, like, the United States, like a UFC crowd, and, like, I hate to say it, Dom, but if it was Columbus, I'm not sure if he would have got that kind of... I shouldn't use us. Even like
if it was
Vegas,
Long Island.
Well, even, Long Island, or if it was like Vegas.
No, if it was San Diego.
San Diego. Which, of course, in German means a whale's vagina.
But, yeah, like any of those crowds, I don't think they would really resonate with that moment as much. Yeah. They probably still, Columbus, very respectful. I think they still would have gave him his shine. But there in Dublin, it really made it feel like a big deal. And I just wonder, why did Bellator want that fight so badly? They tried to match those two up like multiple times.
Yeah, I know.
And did the fight really deliver? Like, I mean, no.
Yeah.
It delivered a finish, and it was a pretty brutal one. But, I mean, it went the way I thought it would. Melvin is a fantastic kickboxer, but has always struggled with wrestlers. Yoel Romero is a freak in nature, but a world-class wrestler, and just took him down at will. He's much bigger than Melvin, and by round 3, he finally got the ground and pound going and put him away pretty quickly. So for all the work that Bellator did to get this fight made, like just over and over rebooking it, I think it had turned out to be exactly what we all thought it'd be.
Yeah, and that question kind of goes into what I was going to ask you, because it's like, did they just want that fight made so badly because they just wanted Yoel to get another win? Because what do you think they do with Yoel? Because obviously his career, the transition to Bellator didn't start the way they wanted with all the kind of stuff that went on when he first signed. But now he has won 2 back-to-back fights, both third round, pretty brutal finishes. But what can you actually do with a 45-year-old Yoel Romero still? Can Bellator, I mean, can they? Yes, of course they can. It's their organization. But do they, maybe is the word I should use, do they try and get him up there to the title, Noah? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think that they hope that he can get to that point. I mean, I think that's what he wants to do too. I think he wants to make one last run at that title. Well, I think in the lead up to this fight, he said that he plans to fight until he's 49 or something like that. And then
That's
call it
4
a
more
career.
years. Holy.
So, but I do think that in terms of this run with Bellator, we're kind of in the prime of it, I guess. Or this
Yeah.
is like really it. Like he's gonna go once he loses, you might get one more, and then that might be it. But this is like where momentum's gonna be at its highest for him right now. Yeah. 2 wins, 2 finishes. So Yoel has talked about dropping back down to 185. He's saying that he wants to go for middleweight, that, these light heavyweights can rest easy, basically, that he's going to be leaving the division. The man is 45 years old. He is a freak of nature. He does not look 45 years old. But, Dominic, we know that what they say is when you get older, it gets harder to cut weight.
Yeah.
Yoel has had a hell of a time making 185 when he was 5 years younger. So I don't love the idea of him going to 185. I think that that's just going to lead to more kind of these weird incidents popping up in his fights. I think there's a great chance if he goes to 185, he fucking misses weight or something.
Yeah, we've seen it before. So,
how can you really put that guy in a middleweight title fight like the UFC did back in the day multiple times and him fail to make it on the scales? So I feel like for him, he should stick at 205. I mean, I'd love to see him fight guys like Vadim Nemkov and Corey Anderson.
That's an interesting fight.
I don't know how well he does at this point, but I would love to see him give it a try for sure.
Right.
So
yeah, I agree.
And I will say for Benson, I don't want to, I don't want to not say anything about it, but it was a good win for him. He looked good. I don't really know what you do with him, truthfully. He called out the 2 guys fighting for the lightweight title in Chicago, by the way, where we're going to be at. So he's kind of wanting to get a title shot. Don't really think that's what you're going to get. Or maybe, I don't know if he was really calling for a title shot, or maybe he wants the loser of that fight. I wouldn't hate it if he fought the loser, but I also don't think it's a very winnable fight either way for him. So, but I was surprised at how one-sided this fight was, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and could you see a world in maybe, say Benson wants one more fight? Could Bellator give him a title in his swan song, maybe?
They could. He's fought for the title twice before. He's came up short both times, but he is a former UFC lightweight champion. So it'd be cool for him to go out with the moniker.
Chance. Yeah.
He was a UFC champion. He left a Bellator champion. That would be cool because Benson, we're coming up pretty close, I'm sure, to Benson being a longer tenured Bellator fighter than he was a UFC fighter.
Wow,
so
that's crazy.
I don't know the exact dates, but I know I was seeing some people on Twitter talk about that. So it would be kind of a shame for a guy who had a lot of hype when he came into Bellator, who was such a good fighter when he came into Bellator, to never hold the big one. I feel like he's been there. He's been very close, but if he didn't get it back then, I don't really see him getting it now, especially when you got guys like Usman and Nurmagomedov and even Patricio Pitbull, I think, would give him a really hard time. It's not an easy division. 155 is so stacked no matter what freaking promotion you're in.
Very true.
But let's get into the preview portion of this Bellator roundup. Bellator 286, Dominic, the probably biggest card of the year
I would agree.
Bellator.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit impartial to our Chicago card that we're going to, but admittedly, this is literally your two biggest fighters in the promotion, Patricio Pitbull and AJ McKee, on the same card, are 1-1 against each other, and they're not fighting each other. So it's kind of an interesting little note here, but it's got great fights underneath it. But I'm not saying this to call you out, but I'm only saying this because I think it really.
Oh no, let's make a point here. Yeah.
You know, because I think that this is a good, like, I thought you bringing that up proves our point. We just said all of that. Biggest card of their year. Their two biggest fighters in their promotion fighting on the same card.
Mm-hmm.
Dominic literally told me, he's like, I was preparing for the podcast earlier today, and that's how I found out that there was a Bellator card this weekend.
Yeah.
Only reason I knew was because they mentioned it on the broadcast last Saturday. But if you didn't watch last Saturday, I don't know how you would know there's a card going on this weekend, because I've seen nothing. And
it's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
And I get it. The gap between the UFC and Bellator is so much bigger than it was even a few years ago. Like, the UFC is just taking off.
Yeah.
And Bellator stuck in the mud.
That was such a good sound effect. I'm going to have to clip that and use it on a soundboard.
But you put that in your what?
yeah, exactly. What?
But like, I get it. They are the B tier promotion.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no excuses here, in my opinion. You have Showtime behind you, CBS Sports, all that, and you can't like do anything to try to promote this fight. Like, Scott Coker, I know, has a lot of respect with his fighters. Like, he seems to be maybe a little bit more easier to get along with than like a Dana White, but like, he feels like he's asleep at the wheel, like, right now. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
This is a big card for them, and nothing.
Yeah, and it's always kind of been this way, man. But again, you're having Patricio Pitbull defend his title. You're having AJ McKee make his debut at lightweight against the biggest star in the company, Spike Carlyle. And you've got a stacked main card in general. I mean, Aaron Pico's on this card against Jeremy Kennedy. Juan Archuleta, former champions, fighting. I mean, this is an awesome main card. Guys, this podcast is essentially a part-time job, right? We put a lot of hours into it. We take a lot of notes, research, and blah, blah, blah. The fact that I didn't know, when I'm so heavily indulged in the MMA space and community, YouTube videos every day. All I see is MMA Twitter and fantasy football Twitter. Like, that's all I see on Twitter. And there's nothing I did not know until I went to take notes for today's show. That's not good, man. That's not good. You have to market and promote these events, man. And that is the probably biggest reason that the PFL is number 2 for us, because they do good promotions. Yes, they're making big signings right now. Yes, they do the season, and it's way different, but they are making themselves stand out from the crowd. And that's why they've overtaken for me as a fan and as a podcaster here. They really have.
Completely. And just to put it in perspective, when Patricio and AJ McKee had their first fight, that was last summer.
Yeah.
Like in July. It was going up against a UFC Fight Night headlined by Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that UFC Fight Night, which was a week one, it was a week fight night, I think had like 4 or 5 times the viewership of that Bellator card.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I could be wrong on the numbers, but it was like a star. I mean, and that shows you the levels, right? Like,
of course, right.
And I mean, but the fact that I do think part of it's just the UFC machine is just so much bigger than even the PFL, than Bellator, than won anything. But I also think that some of it falls on the promotion of it, because there was none. And that was probably one of the biggest fights in the history in terms of just like pure skill. I know that rivalry's kind of faded since, because the second fight was kind of a weird one, and now they're just not going to do it again. But at the time, it felt like one of the biggest fights Bellator had ever done.
Yeah, and see, I was gonna give them a little leeway and say, well, they're behind a paywall, right? You have to have Showtime. Well, how do you watch UFC fight nights? You have to have ESPN Plus. So like, you can't even use that as like an
Showtime's
excuse.
like $10 a month. Like, it's not that much of a difference, because now ESPN Plus has went up, right? It's not
Yeah,
even
it's gonna be 10, I
$5.
think, in January.
So, and I don't see their numbers dropping too much from
No,
that move.
no.
Like, I just, it's so disappointing. But maybe the fact that it feels like no matter how much people talk about it or we talk about it, it doesn't change. Maybe you're just never gonna see it unless it's under different ownership. I don't
Right.
know. I'm shocked that Showtime is continuing to hold on to this property. It kind of feel like a sale's coming, in my opinion.
I know, like, are they getting the return to even go through putting Bellator on
Right.
their platform?
But maybe that's why there's just no expense that they're really willing to give for marketing, because it's like, well, you guys don't make us anything. So
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, but I'm not giving excuses here. It's a shame, really.
It is.
But,
It is. Yeah.
But let's focus on the positives. We're getting great fights here.
Yes. Yes. True.
So your main event, Patricio Pitbull, looking to defend his now regained featherweight title. I believe it's like his third or fourth featherweight title reign. And he's going up against Adam Borics, number 2 ranked in the division. And just underneath him on the card, the number 1 ranked guy in the division, AJ McKee, is making his debut at lightweight. He is moving up a weight class. And Dominic, he's taking on our guy, Spike Carlyle. So, when you evaluate these two matchups, I mean, I think for this show, like the way we get invested in these weird fighters who really aren't even like, they don't feel like big players. We have to start with Spike versus McKee here, because Spike is in the biggest spot
Oh yeah,
of
by
his
far.
career. It's probably we never would have thought we'd see him in this kind of position. He's on the fucking poster. I mean,
Yes,
I
he
never
is.
thought I'd see Spike Carlyle on a fight poster. That's no disrespect to him. It's just like, I don't know. It feels like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But realistically, we can love that he's in this spot. He's fighting AJ freaking McKee.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that Spike Carlyle is going to bring it. But does he really have a chance here? That's the question.
He is a plus 340 underdog. So
That actually I'm actually surprised that it's not more. If I'm
he's
being
actually
honest
a
with you.
less underdog than Jeremy Kennedy against Aaron Pico, which I found
And
was a bit
I think
interesting.
that's crazy, but
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways, I'll let you continue.
But I mean, this is the fight I'm most excited for the weekend. I think it's going to be very fun. AJ McKee is a guy that is just a phenomenal fighter. He's one of the best fighters in the world, regardless of promotion. He's very well rounded. He's super skilled. He's 18-1. Every single fight that he's ever had as a professional has been in Bellator. He's been born and molded into what he is today with that company. Spike Carlyle, the complete opposite. My favorite stat of the whole weekend on my notes this week, he's on a 5-fight win streak. They're all via finish, and every one of those wins has been in a different organization. Now, my man Spike, don't settle. He's all over the
That's
map, baby.
Hilarious.
But now
Has
he's
he
back.
really fought that much since he left the UFC?
He has not stopped fighting since he left. He left the UFC. His last fight was November of 2020, and he's on a 5-fight win streak since then.
Wow,
And this
he's
is going
been
to be
out
a
of the
6th
UFC
fight.
that long, huh? I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. That's crazy.
And I mean, the dude is just in fun fights. Win or lose, he's going to go out on his shield, and I think he's going to bring it to AJ McKee. And I don't think a lot of people have been able to do that because they kind of get stuck in the mud. AJ's just leaps and bounds ahead. And don't get me wrong, AJ is the better fighter here. But maybe, just maybe, that dog in Spike is going to be enough to at least make this closer than what the odds say, than what the people say. Of course, I'm probably leaning toward AJ, but I'm not counting out Spike. What do you think?
I just want to know if you're going to put money on Spike. Put your money where your mouth is. I mean,
Plus 340 is awful juicy. I
this
mean,
is your guy, you know.
It might be worth the sprinkle. No, I may just do it for fun.
I'm definitely putting you on the spot, but
We'll keep that one off the bet slip. It'll be
yeah. So I guess when I'm evaluating this matchup, I was not a big fan of it being put together, admittedly. I like Spike Carlyle a lot. He's a very fun fighter. But I just didn't understand why AJ McKee, even though he's in a new weight class, hasn't fought at lightweight, but why is this his entryway? Like, this feels like almost like a boxing.
They
type
could
of
easily put him up with
matchmaking.
a top 5 guy.
Yeah, like what? Like I don't really get it, right? Like I guess it's so he can get a win. That's kind of the thought process, but AJ McKee could probably compete with most of the top of the lightweight division, would maybe even win the title right now for all we know. So he does have some questions to answer, though. His last performance was interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. Him and Patricio Pitbull, it was a fine fight, but it was just so weird to see AJ just not like Patricio. We knew was still very good, but the way McKee beat him in the first fight, he really he was patient, but it only took him like 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes in that first round, and he found the shot and just put him away.
Right.
And then in the second fight, he seemed to just not be that guy. Like he just seemed different, didn't have that kind of patience, but also wasn't picking his shots that well. And Patricio did enough with those slip ups to kind of maximize his opportunity in the fight and got his hand raised and got his title back. So it feels like it really stunted the development of AJ McKee, or I guess the trajectory of AJ McKee, who going into that fight was hinting at maybe going to the UFC and wanting matchups with Volkanovski and Holloway. And we were even talking on this show, how many featherweights in the UFC was AJ McKee better than? And now coming off of this, now I'm hearing people do the opposite, where they're like, I don't think he could beat a single top 15 featherweight. So he's got a lot of haters that he's got to sort of answer for here. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the right matchup to do it, if I'm being honest, because I think Spike is going to bring out something exciting in McKee. But it could be to the point where he's in a dogfight and then there might be more questions. But I have a feeling that he's going to make pretty quick work of Spike Carlyle. That is what I'm thinking. But I do hope Spike can put up a pretty decent account for himself here. We got to talk about the title fight too, of course. Patricio looking to defend against Adam Borics. Adam Borics had a great fight back to start our year against Mads Burnell.
Yeah.
And Mads Burnell did lose last weekend, but Adam Borics looked great there, and he sort of quietly just rose to the top here, and now he gets an opportunity against Pitbull. So I think a lot of people, Borics is only a plus 128, which is kind of surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, we do have to wonder how long can Pitbull keep fighting at this level, at this championship level. Yeah. So I thought there'd be more people underestimating Borics due to just the lack of exposure, the lack of real marquee wins. But the guy's very solid, very good.
Yeah.
And I would not be shocked if he went in here and beat Patricio Pitbull.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's 18-1, 9-1 in Bellator. He's won 4 in a row. They've all went the distance, which not necessarily is good or bad, but it just shows that he's not going to wear, he's not going to get tired. Now, this is a 5-round fight. He's been in one, though. That fight with Mads Burnell was a main event, if I'm not mistaken, because it was one of the most surprising fights of the year for 2022 thus far. So I think he can weather storms, but can he weather a storm from Patricio Pitbull? I think that's going to be the biggest question here, because yes, he has a lot of experience in Bellator in general, but no one in Bellator has the experience that Pitbull has. This dude, 26 fights in the company alone, 38 in total as a professional. The guy has some of the most fights out of everyone in this company. But Noah said, how much longer can he go? He's only 35, but fight years mean more than actual age and whatnot. Adam's going to be 6 years younger, 5 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. Everything's leaning in his favor. It's just a matter if he can show up under the brightest lights that he's ever been under.
We got more on this card to come, but we're going to transition into some more recapping of Dana White's Contender Series. Dominic, it's over. Season 6 in the books, week 9 and 10. That's it. It's done.
Yeah, pain.
So we are recapping the last 2 weeks here. A lot that happened. You had 10 fights, 10 contract winners. Anybody that stood out? Anybody at all that stood out to you here?
Nah, they were all just kind of whatever. No, I mean, listen. 2 of the 3 biggest storylines of the entire season were the last 2 weeks. Week 9 was Raul Rosas Jr., 17 years old, from Mexico. Gets the win, becomes the youngest fighter in UFC history. What was Vitor when he started many moons ago? 19, if I'm not mistaken.
He was like 19, I think.
Yeah, so he beat that by 2 years in 2022. It's absolutely insane. He showcased such high-level fight IQ. I'm not even going to say grappling or how he got the fight down there. His fight IQ was so impressive to be that young. And the craziest thing that happened in that fight, flying knee transitioned straight into a takedown. One of the nastiest things I've seen this whole year in mixed martial arts. That was so crazy. I've never seen anybody else do that. He's 17 years old. And of course, week 10, it belongs to Bo Nickel. But Bo Nickel's already made waves 7 weeks ago in week 3. He does it again here, 52 seconds. Nasty left hand, essentially knocks out Donovan Beard. He kind of wakes up, comes to when he hits the ground. So Bo Nickel goes down and then gets a submission. I mean, this guy, Noah, he's 3-0. He's a problem. He should get they're not going to do it, but he should absolutely fight a ranked fighter in his debut.
Oh, he should. But they won't do it, but
yeah. Dude, this guy,
I'm going to be very curious to see how they push him along.
Yeah. Yeah.
How quickly, or are they going to really take their time, because he's calling for the big ones. He's calling for a fight with Hamza. Yeah, so
crazy.
The fact that he wants that, and even his manager has went on the Ringer MMA show before and been I got to tell him to slow down.
Yeah.
He's not the one that wants to pick easier fights. I'm the one that wants him to pick easier fights. Yeah, it's so crazy. You don't see it much anymore when a guy comes in and is that fresh in the MMA, but looks that polished, that well-rounded. So it's definitely something that's that hype's gonna keep growing. He's really gonna be a star here before we know it.
I think so.
And Raul Rosas, I don't know what the future holds for him. It's definitely going to be very interesting to have a guy. By the time he makes his UFC debut, he'll probably be 18.
Hopefully. The dude had to have his parents sign a waiver.
Well, I think he's 2 or 3 months away from being 18. So I don't expect to see him at 17 fighting in an actual UFC octagon. But either way, it's still remarkable that he looked very well-rounded and very polished. Everything I just said about Nickel, not to that extent, but for being that young, he didn't show a whole lot of flaws, man, and his ground game is exceptional. So there's definitely 3 big names that have been kind of pulled from this season, and Bo Nickel and Raul Rosas and then Joe Pyfer in episode 1. So,
and of course Joe already made good on the debut with a nasty knockout.
That's true. And there's definitely going to be more from this crop.
Oh, yeah.
That are going to stand out, and some will, fade away pretty quickly. But it was a good season. And that shows, I know I gave a little bit of crap last season for the amount of contracts given. And this season, it was even more, I think. I don't know if the
record.
Was it? Okay.
It was 43 contracts in 10 weeks.
So basically what that means is, and by the way, 4 of the winners that didn't get contracts were in the first week. So that shows you that literally almost every winner got a contract this season. And truthfully, though, I don't know how many I would have not given a contract to. Almost everyone who got one, I felt was deserving of it. So when you put it like that, I think that shows the quality of this show. Even as it keeps going, you wonder when you get to like the late season 6. They've been doing it for 6 years. How much talent is really still there to pull from? But nature finds a way.
Well, and Dana, acted even more excited now because he's like, Canada's opening back up. They can have shows again.
Mm-hmm.
Australia's opening back up. They can have shows again. So they're going to be able to pull those guys from those regional shows. So he's looking, on to bigger and better for season 7. I definitely do think it's kind of cool because now we can almost, and you can't necessarily compare seasons. There's so many fighters and things that move.
Mm-hmm.
But it does feel like we got to discuss season 5 all the way through on this podcast. Now season 6. And it does feel like the higher quality, bigger storylines, better fighters did come out of season 6 as compared to last year. We had numerous conversations last year about, well, should they have given out those conversations? Right. This season, I don't know if we ever had that conversation in 10 weeks. So.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. But yeah, it was a really good season. It makes me excited and miss it already, and I want to see season 7 right now.
And now our Tuesdays are open. But anyway.
Let's get into some headlines, Dom.
Mm-hmm.
Just from around the MMA world, and we got a little bit of everybody here. So let's start with the great King of Rio, Jose Aldo.
Yeah, wow.
This was, of course, happening like right when we decided to take the week. We had the off week without a UFC event. Yeah, so, of course, it happens like right then. So we're a little late on this one. But Jose Aldo has retired from MMA. This one caught me off guard. It really did.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes what Moraes said after the fight resonate a little more with me. Where he said that Jose told him, like, what was the wording? It was like, I guess I'm not that guy anymore or something like that.
Yeah.
And, I just figure, someone kind of just in the heat of the moment, emotional.
Yeah.
That's what Dana had to say, by the way, about like Kevin Holland announced his retirement on Instagram.
Yeah.
Which I know some people aren't really buying, but that's what Dana kind of said. Like, he had worked on his wrestling so hard, and then he got beat that way by Hamzat. But Jose seems pretty serious about this one. Do you think that this retirement, A, is going to stick, and B, I just want you to kind of talk about your memories of Jose Aldo. Like, how do you kind of look at his career now that it might be set in stone?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a huge shout out. They had welcomed a newborn baby last week, so it literally like all happened within the span of like 24 hours. But he's a legend. What better word to describe Jose Aldo than legend? I mean, and a pioneer for the lower weight classes, for the little guys. Pour one out for the little guys because he was one of the OGs at 145. Look what he did at 135 in the UFC, made a run for titles. All the title defenses in those, WEC days. He comes over here, defends the belt 7 times, still the most that we've ever seen in this division. Alexander Volkanovski even going out and saying he's still the GOAT. I'm chasing him, but he's still there right now. I think it says a lot. Max still calls him the GOAT, and that's a guy that's beat Jose twice. So the respect that Jose Aldo has compared to others is just astronomical. I don't know if there's a more respected fighter like right now, and of course that is just retired, than Jose Aldo. Everybody loves this guy. There's never been a bad thing, that's came out about this guy. I almost said about this guy, but Connor said a lot of mean things. But even Connor behind the mask has shown respect to Jose.
He put out a tweet saying a lot of nice things about Jose, so it's crazy. And that's a guy that knocked out Jose in 13 seconds, yet still holds him in such high regard.
Yeah, so it shows a lot. Obviously, first ballot Hall of Famer for the UFC. When me and Noah create the MMA Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer to get into there. I mean, you just can't say enough about this guy. I think it stinks a little bit that we don't get to see him go out in Brazil in January. Part of me's kind of like holding out. Like, did Jose ever actually put out and say it? Like, I guess he kind of has, and he announced the baby, but I don't know. He never directly addressed it. He's not been doing media about it. So a little dab of me is just holding out.
I thought it was his manager or coach that said it, right?
Something like that came out. So a guy can dream, but if it is all said and done, I mean, one of the most illustrious careers in the history of this wonderful sport.
Yeah, he went undefeated for 10 years back in the day.
Yeah, that's
just
insane,
a crazy
dude.
streak. And what I kind of respect about this move is it's one of the only times that a guy's retired when he still had something left. Make no mistake.
That's true.
His final fight was nothing to write home about. Wasn't a great showing. Wasn't a great fight. But Jose, it's very rare that a guy goes out before the wheels come off.
Right.
Habib did it. GSP did it. That's kind of the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest with you, like there's not too many more who left and still a good position in the sport. And Jose's done that here. He was still very much a top 5 bantamweight. And,
Yes.
the fact that we'll never see fights with like Dominic Cruz, it's like tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I wanted that fight.
That would have been so perfect to do.
But, I do respect it, though. There are
Yes.
things bigger than this sport. And that man just his family's really been started. He's married, I believe married, but he's got a child now. And, hats off to him, man. What a career.
Exactly.
Next up, Eddie Alvarez, former UFC lightweight champion. He's been fighting for ONE FC for the last couple years. Well, they've announced that the two parties have split.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a divorce, Dom, and Eddie Alvarez is moving on from ONE FC. Are you surprised by this?
No. I mean, it was obviously not like a bad breakup or anything like that. It seemed to be pretty mutual. They just parted ways, right? But I can't help.
They drifted apart. They just
Yeah.
it was long distance, or
Yeah,
something.
and dare I say, Eddie wants to see other people because come on, guys. Did you see the tweet? We all saw the tweet. I hope we all saw the tweet. The same day that this all got announced, PFL tweeted out, that meme of the dude with the yellow suit, he's peeking behind the tree?
Yeah.
They tweeted that out when they announced
I actually
that Eddie
didn't
had
see
split.
that.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, Eddie's one of the OG Bellator fighters from many years ago. So, like, he's kind of been everywhere except the World Series of Fighting / now PFL. And Noah, we're about to talk about it, and I guess we can sort of transition. I'll still get your thoughts, but they have one spot on that main card that says TBA versus TBA. And I'm just saying it's in New York. Eddie's that Pennsylvania guy. He's from that region. He's main evented in Madison Square Garden before. I'm just saying.
That's wow, Dom. You actually kind of blew me away there. I had not thought that much into it. I really hadn't, and I love it. I think that'd be awesome.
Come on,
sign me up.
There you go.
Yeah, obviously his run with ONE was kind of weird. Didn't go too well. I think he went 0-2 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Him
he had
and
that.
DJ,
wasn't there like a controversial?
There was that
thing?
one where I think he got DQ'd.
It was a knee or something?
He kneed a downed opponent and they DQ'd him or something. But ONE you can't. I don't know. I forget what it was on the very first one on TNT card or one of the first ones, and him and DJ were sort of brought in to kind of bring an American audience with them. DJ's obviously, I think, done a pretty good job of that. At least he's been a very good fighter for them. And Eddie, it just never really worked, man. Unfortunate. But I would like to believe that he's still got something left, and
right.
I would love to see him in PFL. I would love that.
One last run.
Maybe that spot on the main card for that championship fight that might be reserved for Clarissa Shields. She does have a boxing fight coming up October 17th. Apparently, the negotiations for that PFL fight will happen after that.
That's a month later to turn around. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I think I'd rather see Eddie Alvarez fight on that card. So,
hey, he get one last chance for the guy. $1 million going into next year, lightweight division. Put him on that card to showcase him. I mean, granted, anybody can lose, but still, and we're about to talk about that.
Yeah, and the PFL Championships were announced today. It will be one night. But Dominic, they're going to make it a little easier on us. They're going to make it a little easier because it's going to be on ESPN Plus pay-per-view.
They just got to go. They just got
So basically, we will be paying money to be like, please don't put us through that pacing ever again.
Yes.
And I am happily. I would have. I don't know what the price is going to be on this. They haven't.
I'll
said
pay
yet.
it.
I don't care if it's $250. I don't know why that was the number that came to mind, but
Yeah.
$250, take it. Please don't ever make me watch your card for 12 hours ever again. Thank you very much. But there are a couple things to talk about this card. So first off, Shane Burgos versus Marlon Moraes is apparently going to be put on this card. I'm very shocked.
I can't believe they did it.
I mean, when we were talking about why we didn't love the Marlon Moraes signing, Dominic was literally saying, look at Shane Burgos, and now look at Marlon Moraes.
Yeah.
Look at the size differences between these two. And the PFL said, sign me up. And
man.
And they put those two together. Don't love it, but I mean, I can't deny that it's not a big fight for for that pay-per-view. It's headlined by Kayla Harrison, Larissa Pacheco 3, part Trace. My question, though, let's get serious about this.
Okay.
Is it the right move to do this on pay-per-view?
They're testing the waters, right? I think
I guess the question is it the right card to test it with? Your championship card.
That's true. Because this is the card that ideally you do want the most people to tune into, but now you are putting it behind a paywall, right? Because they've been having their cards on ESPN Network that you haven't had to watch on ESPN Plus. Now you are going to have ESPN Plus. Now you're going to have to buy a pay-per-view. It's a bit of a leap. It's a bit of a gamble. I feel like it's not necessarily a bad decision, but I think it would be better if they waited to stack and make that pay-per-view super fight crap or whatever that they're wording it as for next year.
Yeah, like competitively, it is a stacked card, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Like, 6 title fights, and then you got the Moraes Burgos fight, but it may be Clarissa Shields or Eddie Alvarez or whoever on there as well. But I think there's a really good chance this event's going to flop.
That'd be a shame.
And I just would hate for that to happen because the momentum for the PFL is really high right now.
Yes.
And I think that if they had just if they would have just split it up over two days.
Yep.
And did it on ESPN Plus.
Finish the year normal.
Or do ESPN Network, whatever they could do. It's hard, football season, it's tough.
Yeah.
But I think that would have been a lot of momentum they could have used going into the next season to then potentially do a Cyborg Kayla fight. Instead, you're going right now. You're committing right now, and we don't know if Kayla Harrison can really be a pay-per-view main eventer. She's going to have to carry this really on her shoulders.
Yeah.
We love Burgos. We love Moraes. We love a lot of these fighters on here, but they're not pay-per-view. They're not going to be selling big-time pay-per-views.
Yeah, and I mean, I am really intrigued at what the price is going to be. Again, it's the PFL Championships. We're going to be watching, but you look at a UFC pay-per-view, they're $75. It's a big chunk of change. This is PFL, right? It's number 3. It's borderline. We say it's number 2 though, and that's all that matters. But there's 6 title fights. You got your 2 big signees fighting each other. Are they going to tread a little bit too pricey? Are they going to?
So okay.
I mean, I don't know.
Don't say a number. Don't say a number.
Okay.
Because here's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
I'm gonna count down 3, 2, 1, and then as soon as I say 1, we're gonna say what we think the price is gonna be.
Okay.
Do you have a number?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
$30. The funny thing is, I just changed in my head last second too.
I did too. I was gonna say 25.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's crazy.
Oh boy, that's good
but
stuff.
That's around that's an acceptable price, I think.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Now, if they come out and say 50, I'm gonna be like, y'all are fucking stupid.
I mean, we'll get it, but then you could be talking flop.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be calling him stupid because I'm going to be buying it. So I'm stupid.
We're
But
stupid. Right.
I'm going to feel like I'm buying the Challenger Series again through Fubo TV, and I'll probably forget to cancel it. And then all of a sudden I'm paying for like $100 worth of Fubo. It's not good. But I digress. I'm excited for the card. I like everything about it. Jeremy Stevens also going to be on it, by the way, on the prelims.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But in one of those feature fights,
Gotcha.
But I think it's a risk. I do.
And I have to bring up one more thing. I know you said it's pay-per-view. They're going to have to churn through. But at the end of the day, we have 6 5-round fights. And I'm just saying, it could be disastrous. That's all I'm saying. But I'm not. The odds of having 6 title fights all go the distance that'd be a heck of a parlay. But
why would you say that?
Because
now it's going to happen.
I had to bring it up.
Look,
imagine plus 2 other fights on the main card.
I still have nightmares about last season's championship card. Now, good card, like a lot of great fights on it. But I kid you not, it started at like 4 p.m.
It went till
wasn't
midnight.
done till midnight.
8 hours.
I mean, that was a grind to get through that.
And like they had 3 of the championship fights on the prelims, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what's happening here? At least they're all on the main card this time.
It was a little weird. Look, it just, God, it's giving me a headache thinking about it. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's get into the rest because we got more fights to talk about here. UFC Vegas 61, co-main event, Randy Brown, friend of the show. Shout out to Randy.
Huge shout out, yeah.
Taking on Francisco Trinaldo, the man who doesn't age. Trinaldo has been on a good little streak here, but is in his 40s, correct?
Yes, he is. Where is it? He's 44 now. There's a 12-year gap here.
Yeah, Randy Brown, definitely in the prime of his career right now, has looked very good in his last few fights.
Yeah.
That one-arm submission was terrific, and then he looked great against Chaos Williams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Randy's really putting it together. But Trinaldo he's a tough guy to really solve. He's a big, bulky dude, but he's got a great jiu-jitsu, and he's durable as shit. And and he's a veteran, of course. So he's just got a lot of experience. I think one of the things that's let Randy Brown down at times in his career has been his lack of fight IQ at times, maybe.
Yeah.
And here he'll be going up against a guy who's got a really high fight IQ. But I do think he has the tools to get this one done.
Yeah, this is a really fascinating fight. Again, the 12-year age gap. Randy's going to be 6 inches taller, 8-inch reach advantage.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, to see that he's minus 325 betting favorite. That's what I was waiting to scroll across. And he has been putting it all together, man. Better than he's ever looked, more well-rounded than he's ever looked. He's cleaning up the holes in his game. Trinaldo, though, you can't put the guy away. He's so durable. And the fact that he's 44 and is so active, these are 2 of the most active guys on the roster going up against one another. But Francisco's doing it at 44 years old. He's 18-7 in the company. He's coming in on 2 wins in a row, Noah. That you can't put the guy away. This is a very interesting fight. It's not easy for Randy Brown, but I do envision a world that he gets it done and inches his way closer to a top 15 fight. It's got to come for him soon, hopefully. It's not going to come easy. Trinaldo's an animal, man.
No, but this is the kind of fight he needs to win to show he's ready for top 15.
Yeah.
Lastly, for UFC, how about this? Brendan Allen taking on the fight where all exciting fighters go to die, and that's against Krzysztof Jotko. Oh, man. Add him to the list of people who are going to kick my ass if they ever see me. Look, let's call a spade here. Krzysztof Jotko is a solid fighter.
He is, yeah.
But oof. I mean,
not the best fights.
I'm trying to be delicate.
I mean, we watched one on our first Cage Side Rewind. Shameless plug.
Look, and I think that's why it's so fresh in the brain right now. I don't think I've ever seen a Krzysztof Jotko fight that I was like, fuck yes, dude. Like,
But every Brendan Allen fight, except for his last one.
Most Brendan Allen fights,
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So it's a weird matchup here. It really is, because Jotko doesn't. For a while there, he was kind of. I think he was ranked at one point. Was even like he was inching his way forward. But again, with that kind of fight style, you're not going to get any favors from the guys at the UFC. And now he seems to have kind of fallen back. Like maybe his best years are behind him. Brendan Allen seems poised to really make that kind of run where he can get to the top 15. Has had a couple stumbles. Got back on track. He beat Jacob Malkoon, right, in his last fight.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's an exciting fighter. He's exciting, young, good personality, all that stuff. Is he going to have a hard time here with Jotko? It's hard to look good against Krzysztof Jotko.
Yes, dude. That is such a perfect line to describe a fight with him. Because Brendan Allen, I want to say on paper you think he wins, but I mean, he's a plus 100 underdog in this fight. I will be playing that, by the way. Yeah. I will absolutely be playing that.
I get it, but I don't get it.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah, this is a weird one. I mean, Jotko's well-rounded, but Brendan Allen is just kind of like the next wave. He's 26 years old, but he's already had 9 fights in the company. He won on the Contender Series a few years ago. I mean, another super active guy that is getting better and better by each fight. He's had his faltering moments. I mean, he had that fight with Chris Curtis that he lost. That was his last loss. But I don't know, man. I just kind of lean Brendan in all facets of the fight, regardless of the experience and fight style of Jotko. So I think he gets it done, but maybe Jotko spoils his night. I don't really know.
He's a hard guy to look good against, and Brendan Allen prides himself on being an exciting fighter who goes for finishes. Jotko's very good at slowing down the fight, really dragging you into a very close quartered, a lot of clinching and stuff like that, push you up against the cage, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be a definite test for Brendan to try to counteract that, for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
More from Bellator 286. I'll just kind of group these two together so we can just kind of get that discussion going. Aaron Pico taking on Jeremy Kennedy. And this fight gets the award for the fight that I already thought happened award. Because I saw this fight on here and I was like, oh, is this a rematch? Oh, no, it's just
I think it has been booked, though, right? And I think
I'm pretty sure we previewed it. And then I think Kennedy fell out or something like that. So this fight I thought it's happened like 10 times already, but apparently they've never fought before.
Right.
And then you have Juan Archuleta, former champion, taking on Enrique Barzola in a matchup of you would call it Grand Prix losers as of now. I didn't want to word it like that, but people that felt they're trying to get back on track following disappointing losses in the Grand Prix.
Right.
So a lot of good fights here. Which direction are you kind of leaning? Are you preferring that Archuleta Barzola matchup, or is the Pico Kennedy matchup, the upside of Pico, really piquing your interest?
I see what you did there. I think you have to pick Pico and Kennedy, but I don't know, man. Like Juan Archuleta and Enrique Barzola, the more high level fight. I mean, Juan Archuleta, former champion. Enrique was 6-3-1 in the UFC. Had a good run there for a couple of years. He's still just 33 years old, but Aaron Pico has been that guy. Another guy, just like AJ McKee, every fight he's ever had as a professional has been in Bellator. He's 10-3, 13 fights in the company. He had those moments where he faltered. He lost a couple in a row. That was right when we were entering into starting the podcast. He was coming in to get a win back, I believe, is when he started this win streak that he's on. He's won 6 in a row. The dude's finished 9 out of 10 fights. He's super exciting. Noah's the one that, turned me on to this guy. I didn't really know much about him. Noah told me about his background and everything. But Jeremy Kennedy, by the way, when you introed this fight and said Kennedy, I couldn't help but think, Kennedy from the WWE. But I think this is going to be a good fight, man. And Kennedy's no slouch. He's been in the UFC. He's been in the PFL before. So he's got better competition all around than what I would say Aaron Pico does. So I think it's not an easy one. And Aaron Pico minus 600, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not going to sprinkle on this fight. At least I don't think so. But maybe, just maybe. But yeah, I have to go that one, and I would imagine you are too.
So funny enough, I'm not. Even
Oh,
though,
right.
even though I'm big on Aaron
That's your
Pico.
guy. Yeah.
I really like Aaron Pico. I think that dude is a future. It's hard to say if he's a future champion because he's a tough division, but he feels like a guy with that kind of potential. And he's a wonder kid, right? He was literally the future from the day he started. It's probably one of the biggest prospects in MMA history in terms of talent, and somehow Bellator was able to get him.
Yeah.
But I think I'm more intrigued by this Archuleta Barzola fight. We'll see. I do think Aaron Pico is going to win against Jeremy Kennedy. And maybe that's why, is I'm just pretty confident in him. But I do admit Jeremy Kennedy, definitely a good test. And I don't want to overlook him. But the Archuleta Barzola fight's a little more interesting because Barzola, if I remember right, in his Grand Prix fight, he put up a pretty decent showing. And then obviously he had the UFC record that was pretty good coming in. So he's definitely a high-level guy that's just kind of hasn't been able to make a name for himself yet. Juan Archuleta has been at the top of this promotion at a time. Former champion, but he's lost, I think, 2 in a row now.
Yes.
So it's more intriguing for me because can Archuleta get back on track? Can he still be one of the best in the division? Can he be a title challenger again? Or have we seen the best of him already? Was the loss to Sergio Pettis and the fashion that happened?
Yeah, true.
Kind of a sign that maybe he's just not that guy anymore. And I think this fight it's a really good litmus test of where he falls into this division.
I like it. I do.
Yeah. So we got the closing statements coming up, but first, I want to remind everybody, if you want to see our picks for the weekend of MMA, you got to follow us on social media. So on Twitter, Instagram, at the Bajma, the BAJ MMA, on Twitter, Instagram, and we will post the picks on there. Friday or Saturday, I like to give Dom that leeway just in case. But before the cards start, it will be posted. And you can also follow Dominic on Twitter or Instagram at dslee14.
Yes.
You can follow myself on Twitter. Instagram. New again. At TWIS_betting. Now you might ask yourself, now what does that mean? I'm not gonna tell you.
You're gonna have to go read the bio.
What's that? What's that clip? Is that?
I'm not going to. So quit asking.
Who was that?
I'm not gonna do it. So quit asking, Nick Saban.
That's Nick Saban. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. So if you look deep enough, you'll kind of get the idea. But I'm rebranding my personal Twitter and Instagram.
He's rebranding his whole being.
My life is changing right now.
He changed it on his birth certificate too.
So that is my new app. So you can find me there. I'm still running that account. So.
Now listen. We call it, the BAJ MMA. We call it the Bajma. So is it Twiz?
Twist betting.
When I read it last night for the first time, I kept saying twist betting. That's kind of
I definitely thought of that when I was typing it because I'm like, okay, we got the Bajma, like what can be kind of, I'm like twist betting. I'm like, well,
T-Wiz. I don't know.
It's got some work to do, but maybe it'll catch on.
Okay.
But anyways, we're gonna get into closing statements. That's the only way we end our shows around here, Dom. Or at the point of the show, we can talk about anything and everything, MMA related or not. We had a big discussion in our last episode about ranch or blue cheese. Dominic, again, got berated by the audience. I don't think Dominic has had a food take that has not been one of the worst food takes of all time. But that's okay. We're here. It's a new day. What do you have for closing statements? You look like you are dying with anticipation to share this one.
No, I'm just kidding. Let me get this straight though, because this is a trilogy here. What was the first one again?
It was like the best condiment.
The best condiment, right? Okay. And then Noah's second part of that was condiment for wings in regards to ranch and blue cheese. And we had a nice discussion, some would say. And then we get to today. It's part 3. It's the ending to the trilogy. And it's simple. I said that last time too when I was talking about it, but we were talking about wings on Monday, but we never really said, boneless, bone in. We're just like, what do you, ranch or blue cheese? What do you dip it in?
Yeah.
Well, if you're not using boneless wings when you're dipping into your side sauce of choice, you're doing it wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the question is, do you eat your wings boneless or bone in? No, the floor is yours.
Dominic Street continues of having the most asinine bedwetting type food takes I've ever heard. The fact that you prefer boneless over bone-in shows that you are a psychopath. I was on to you with the bagel bites. I was confident in you when it came time for, what was the second fucking thing? The steak. Oh,
Yeah.
Don't even
that
remind
one
me.
was not good for me. Yeah.
But I was confirmed on you by the time you said you don't use ranch or blue cheese. And this is just a confirmation, you sick piece of shit. I can't believe you ever convinced me to do a show with you when you got all these, I'm calling them bedwetting food takes. That's what it reminds me of. It's very much like your food takes when you tell them to me. I feel like you're my buddy staying over who just told me he peed the bed, like as a kid. Like, I'm pretty sure I did that to Jake Moore once. Pretty sure I wet the bed at his house, and I was like, Jake, I wet your bed. And
Right.
He was like, dude, what the fuck? Why'd you wet my bed?
Okay.
So that's what you just did to me.
I wetted the bed.
Proverbially, you wet my bed.
Okay.
And I'm not happy about it because bone-in wings are king. And I will admit it's a rather new part of my life to be very wing-in guy.
Yeah.
I did for a long time only do the boneless wings. But then I did this thing, you guys might have heard of it. I did this thing where you call it grow up and actually develop adult, food taste, right? So
Right.
I did that. I did a little bit of growing up. You guys might want to look into it. It's just Google it. Bone-in wings are supreme. They taste better. They're actual chicken wings. I mean, the boneless wings are tenders or nuggets. I mean, they're not wings.
I like a good dino nugget.
Ain't no damn chicken flying with those wings. I mean, come on. So I just can't believe, Dom. Like, I understand having like one of these things, that being your kind of edgy thing. Like, ooh, I'm a bagel bite guy. It's like, okay, fucking weirdo, but all right, I'll hang out with you. But these are like, I mean, these are stacking up. Like, I can't. It's becoming hard to defend you against the mob. I mean, every time we do this, you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And then everybody just starts shitting on you. And look, I'll admit it. Like, I was kind of commenting back, egging them on. I was kind of like, yeah, fucking get them, boys. So
Noah had a literal chef with him.
I did. I said, see, Dom, this guy's a chef. That he knows what he's talking about.
He's like, yeah, I have been for 10 years. I'm like, holy shit.
That was hilarious. But, yeah, that was my long way of saying bone-in wings are best.
Well, that's all, folks.
So do you not like getting? Is it the messiness that you don't like?
It's just the ratio of meat. I want
What?
more. I want more meat in my mouth.
That's, huh? Okay, well, I short circuited right there.
I broke my brain.
You just said something else that is even dumber than what you just said. There is more meat in a bone-in wing than boneless.
No.
Prime example?
Okay.
Prime example? B-dubs.
Okay. Prime example back. A Rooster's boneless wing to a B-dub's regular wing. Tell me You're
Wait a
not
minute.
getting.
Wait a minute. You have moved the goalpost on me.
Okay, you want me to go same restaurant?
Wait,
Fine.
you literally
Fair.
just were like, how about a wing, the biggest boneless wing on the market compared to overpriced, tiny bone-in wings from B-Dubs. Look, I love B-Dubs sauces, but their chicken is pretty small as it is.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you try to compare the biggest boneless wing on the market?
Okay, I think even a boneless wing at B-Dubs to the regular wing, it's just better. It's better. You're still getting more wing. You don't have to fight your way through a bone, and you're gonna get shit all over your fingers and your mouth. And some people maybe they're thinking, like Noah already said, grow up, Dominic. Be a man. What's that guy on TikTok? Be a man. I know Noah's not big on TikTok, but the guy's pretty funny. So I don't like getting my hands dirty. So I don't like eating around a bone. Just give me the wing on a fork. Boom, down the gullet, one bite, all done. On to the next wing.
I do have to admit, after everything I just said,
Are we having a full
I'm kind
circle
of a
moment here?
I'm kind of a fraud because I just said all that. I mean, I went on a monumental,
Yeah.
just
Uh-huh.
thrashing of you.
Yeah. Finish up here. Huh? Come on, let it out. The first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem.
I still get boneless wings from Roosters.
That's why I love
You
you.
got the one example that you knew you could nail me on because that it's true. Roosters boneless is better than their bone in, and I think you get more chicken. With the
I'm gonna
boneless.
ask you one more question because you were in BG longer than myself.
Yes, the boneless from Wings
Wings
Over
Over.
are bigger than the bone in.
I just didn't know.
Actually, I don't know. It's very comparable.
And I'll tell you, when you go to a wing place and you're not ordering 6 or 8, you're saying, I want a half pound. Far superior, by the way, too. If you're ordering shit by the pound, you're doing things right.
I don't have anything to say to that one.
There you go.
So for my closing statement, do I have anything today? I feel like I had something coming in, and then I thought of something better, and then you said some bullshit, and then I like
It's all
forgot
gone.
it.
All gone. Yeah. Well,
Well, I'm Noah Baker. That's Dominic Salee. We are but just two of the Below Average Joes, and we will see you guys on Monday.